In news this week, millions march for action on climate change. Christian aid agencies respond to toxic mudslide. And a Catholic leader calls for unity with Protestants.
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Hello, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to Record in Focus, the weekly program that brings you Christian news, views and interviews. I'm your host, Kent Kingston, and at the news desk is the marvellously credible Sibel Couttet.
Well, with that introduction, I'd have to say it's great to be here, Kent. On today's programme, we'll hear from Canberra on Australian politics. Our resident nutritionist Sue Rad looks behind the labels on kids' snack foods. And you're interviewing an ex-bikie, Kent.
Yeah, that's right. Matthew Craddock was up to his neck in crime and drugs, but Jesus got through to him with the power of love. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it, Sibel, but first up, it's the news.
Thanks, Kent. Last weekend saw hundreds of thousands of people around the world marching and calling for action on climate change. Church groups were among them. Ahead of the International Climate Change Summit in Paris, a collection of petitions from faith-based coalitions urged political leaders to take decisive action to curb global warming. The total number of signatures on the petitions approaches 1.8 million. According to the World Council of Churches, the signatures were presented to United Nations leaders in Paris. Some of those at the event had arrived on foot after completing pilgrimages from countries as far away as the Philippines to express their concern about climate change. Australia's welfare sector says its ability to help struggling families this Christmas has been limited further by federal government funding cuts. According to ABC News, charity organisations, many of which are run by churches, have been hit by a $270 million reduction in funding.
So as we go into this Christmas period, it will be a really heightened test for us about whether the level of service across the country is adequate.
Even before the cuts, 80% of community organisations said they were unable to meet the demand for their services. A government spokesman said Australia's charity and community organisations are valued, but that the nation is facing a tight fiscal environment. Christian organisations are among the critics of a new Victorian law that effectively bans abortion-related protest or awareness-raising activities in a 150-metre exclusion zone around abortion clinics. Critics are concerned that Victoria's 10,000 GP medical centres are also covered under the legislation, which could render some conversations about abortion illegal even in nearby properties such as church premises or university campuses. The Australian Christian Lobby is one organisation warning that the legislation is an unreasonable breach of free speech and may fail if it is challenged by the High Court. And later in the programme, we'll hear more on this latest development from the ACL's Lyle Shelton. Christian agencies have responded after a toxic mudslide in Brazil left 10 people dead, others missing or injured, and more than 250,000 without drinkable water. The mudslide occurred as two dams burst, which had been holding waste from a joint Australian-Brazilian iron ore mine. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency swung into action after the accident, distributing hygiene kits to 600 families displaced by the mudslide. As it became clear that the waste products containing toxins such as arsenic and mercury were polluting the river and water supplies, ADRA supplied clean drinking water to nearly 2,500 families. According to the ABC, the mining company has already been hit with more than $300 million in damages and fines. The total cost of the cleanup could exceed $1.4 billion. As awareness of the damaging effects of refined and added sugar grows, consumers may be tempted to choose sugar-free soft drinks or lollies as a healthy alternative. But are they healthy for our teeth? Melbourne's Oral Health Cooperative Research Centre says the answer is often no. Their research has found that while tooth decay is reduced by staying away from sugary food and drinks, there are still high acid levels in sugar-free products. Citric acid and phosphoric acid are common flavour enhancers that eat away at the teeth enamel and can prevent calcium from rebuilding the tooth structure. Adventist health experts say the study is further evidence for a diet based on whole foods.
God created foods in a specific way, knowing that it would be good for us. Anytime we mess with God's packaging of the food, we're deteriorating the quality of that food. The simple message is that your whole food, plant-based diet is the best diet.
Faith leaders meeting on the sidelines of G20 meetings in Turkey have been reminded that religious freedom undergirds national and economic success. Dr. Ganoun Diop, who heads up the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department, told the gathering that the success of poverty reduction strategies, such as the new Sustainable Development Goals, depends on moral foundations. According to Adventist Review, Diop urged faith leaders to work together and bring their best values to bear in addressing the world's problems. A senior Catholic leader has preached at Westminster Abbey calling for unity between Christians and a renewed emphasis on the Protestant doctrine of justification by faith. According to Christian Today, Father Raniero Cantamalessa, who is chaplain to the household of Pope Francis, spoke in the presence of Queen Elizabeth, the Supreme Governor of the Church of England, which he said is well placed to bridge the gap between Catholics and Protestants. Referring to the upcoming 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation, Cantamalessa said it's vital not to remain prisoners of the past, arguing about who was right or wrong. Rather, he said, Christians should together be emphasising the need to be justified by faith in Jesus, not by self-focused and self-reliant religion. 600 million people around the world play computer games. For Christian evangelists, it's a largely unexplored mission frontier. US-based gaming company Lightside has had some success with a mobile puzzle game, Stained Glass, which they say 7 million people have downloaded so far.
When I told my family, my wife was supportive, but my boys all thought it was one of Dad's crazy ideas. They refused to help.
According to CBN News, the game has led 16,000 people to connect with the Billy Graham Evangelical Association and make a decision for Christ.
So much of today's entertainment is filled with darkness. Look, there are games out there where you sell drugs, where you kill innocent people, where you sleep your way through Hollywood. We believe that there's tremendous need for games where faith and fun go hand in hand.
A church in New York has received an unexpected and early Christmas surprise: a baby in a manger. According to Religion News Service, the church's security camera captured a woman entering the church with a baby and leaving empty-handed. The newborn baby boy was left in the church's nativity display manger, with his umbilical cord still attached. He was found soon afterwards and is safe and well. The mother has since been identified but will not be charged. She's protected under laws that allow babies to be dropped off anonymously at safe haven locations. A baby in a manger, Kent. I know you've imposed an embargo on all Christmas talk, but how could we possibly miss a story like that?
The embargo ends on the 1st of December, Sibel, so it's all good now. It's open slather. But if we must talk about Christmas, surely, a baby in a manger has to be the best possible place to start.
Couldn't agree more. Stay with us. Politics in Focus is coming up after the break.
So you think you've got your future all planned out, right? Or maybe you're not sure yet what you want to do, who you want to be, but whatever path you choose to study, a great education matters. Because it doesn't just help you get a great job, it helps you prepare for what life can throw at you and live a great life. Avondale. It's education designed for life.
Hello, welcome back. And now we go to Canberra, where the Australian Christian Lobby's Lyle Shelton is standing by. How are you, Lyle?
I'm very well, thanks, Kent.
Now, Lyle, we heard in our news bulletin earlier about the concerns you and other Christian organisations have raised about these abortion exclusion zones in Victoria. You've been saying this is a free speech issue.
Yeah, that's right, Kent. With the legislation that went through in Victoria, all communication about abortion is banned within 150 metres of abortion clinics, including doctors' surgeries where RU486, the abortion pill, that the poison for poisoning unborn babies, is prescribed. And this is very difficult, particularly in an area like the Melbourne CBD, where there's universities, where there's churches. There's a Greek Orthodox church close to one of these exclusion zones. So it does create a lot of confusion and really does inhibit free speech and peaceful protest, including prayer.
Okay. Now, I do have to take issue with you just a little bit there, Lyle, because some of the criticisms you're making make it sound like any discussion of abortion is banned in these exclusion zones. Now, I've read the legislation and it seems pretty clear to me that it's focused only on communication with people who are on their way to an abortion clinic, not to just any random person in that exclusion zone.
Well, we've taken legal advice on this, and certainly legitimate concerns have been raised that it might preclude discussion even on a university campus that would be within one of these exclusion zones. So that's a major concern, and the advice we have is that this could potentially go all the way to the High Court.
Okay. All right, well, on to another topic, Lyle. You've been urging Woolworths to drop its involvement with gambling. What level of involvement are we talking about?
We're talking pretty significant, Kent. Woolworths held its AGM last week. The company makes about $1.2 billion from poker machines. Woolworths is a 96% shareholder in AHL Group, which owns over 300 poker machines. These are addictive machines, and much of this profit is being generated off the back of poker machine addicts. The machines are designed to suck people in and to cause them to lose money. It's a big social problem, and it's not an ethical investment for a company like Woolworths.
Boy. Well, let's hope they're listening to your critiques there. Thanks so much for your time this week, Lyle.
Pleasure, Kent. Thanks for having us.
We'll take a quick break now. Food in Focus is coming up next.
Travel back in time to ancient civilizations through this bi-monthly magazine, Archaeological Diggings. Don't miss an issue. Subscribe online or ask for Archaeological Diggings at your local newsagent.
Hi, welcome back. So I go to the supermarket, I'm trying to find some food for my kids' lunchbox, and I see a label that says school canteen approved. It's great, isn't it, Sue, that in the supermarkets they give us this health advice to tell us what's healthy for our kids. The story's a bit more complex, isn't it?
It is indeed, Kent. So what's actually happened is that the government some years ago developed school canteen guidelines for use by canteen managers to help plan menus at school, and they use the traffic light guide where you have the green foods that you should eat all the time. You've got amber foods to be careful with and red foods not to include at all.
To avoid, okay.
But what's happened is that manufacturers of processed snack foods have exploited this and used it for a purpose which it was not intended.
Okay, I think I saw one of these here. Yeah, here we go. This particular food here has meets amber guidelines school canteens.
So these are self-styled logos. They are not independently assessed, the
so
products.
Not part of the government scheme?
They are not part of the government scheme. In fact, Choice found that there were 17 such logos on packets on different processed and discretionary foods to help increase the sales of these products.
17 different logos?
17 different self-styled logos, yes.
Saying this is good for your kids' lunchbox, this is good for a school canteen.
Yes, and this is because companies know that that helps to drive sales.
So none of these logos are actually put on a pack as after some sort of accreditation process? Or
absolutely not.
So it's just made up?
That's right. So this is why health professionals and public health officials are very concerned, because it's making discretionary foods have a health halo.
I like that, a health halo.
Yes, and busy parents don't have a lot of time to check labels. They see a logo like that and they think, this must be good for me or good for my child, and they can have as much as they want. But in fact, these are just discretionary foods. Most of them have far too much salt, they have too much sugar, they're highly refined, not enough fibre, and the wrong types of fats. And indeed, we know from the last National Nutrition Survey that 40% or more of total calories that a 14 to 18-year-old in Australia will consume come from these types of foods.
Wow. That's what they call empty calories,
Empty
isn't it?
calories.
Yeah.
And we also know that 70% of kids' eating behaviours and preferences are set when they're young. So we need to make sure that what we do pack in their lunchbox are going to be foods that are going to set them up for health and well-being, not for type 2 diabetes or obesity.
Because sometimes you can sort of get away with it when you're a kid. Can't you? You're healthy, you're running around, you're growing, so you sort of use those calories. I mean, we do have a problem with childhood obesity, let's face it, but as you're an adult and you keep eating like that.
And also it's not just about the weight, it's what some of those nasty nutrients are doing inside the children's bodies that we actually can't see in terms of bringing chronic disease early.
Okay, so you got that message, beware labels. And you mentioned Choice. I understand they have a...
Choice have been running a advocacy campaign to try and get parents and others in the community to support the need for these misleading logos to be removed from pack. So if people would like to support this scheme, the best thing is to sign up. It takes 30 seconds to endorse this campaign so we can get these misleading logos off pack and parents are no longer being misled.
Okay, so check those web address details that are on your screen. Now, just quickly before we go, Sue, because we're nearly out of time, you have some healthy options here.
Absolutely. So it's back to the basics, Kent. Natural, minimally processed foods. A, they will save you money because these discretionary choices actually cost more per serve than many natural foods.
I've noticed that,
and B, they're going to set your kids up for a healthy life. Establish good habits now, protect them from obesity and high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes.
And who says they don't have to be fun? I mean, the curly apple machine or even this pineapple slice on a stick. That's what I'm going to send you off with for this segment. Thanks so much for your time, Sue.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Munching and crunching.
The media targets our goals with destructive messages. But is there an alternative? Yes, it's Gigi. Gigi is a great new magazine for teenage girls that uplifts good Christian values. Finally, a way to pass on our values in a way the teenage girls in our life will love. So give a subscription to a teenage girl you love today. Visit ggmagazine.com.au. That's gigimagazine.com.au.
Hi, welcome back. Well, I guess there are some people on this planet that you wonder, could anyone love this person? Is this person, worth anything? And I guess an ice addict would fall into that category, or perhaps a biker, perhaps both. Matty Craddock,
G'day, Ken, how are you?
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, mate.
Sorry, that wasn't a very complimentary way to introduce you, was it?
Mate, look, it's very true. I was, I'm quite happy to admit I was probably one of the furthest things from relationship with God, and I got to a point where whole of society had deemed me as completely unlovable. Yeah,
well, so we talk about this ice epidemic, that's just destroying lives around Australia. You were right in the thick of that. 15 years.
Absolutely, yeah, mate. 15 years. I was, a meth user. I would smoke probably $2,000 worth a week for 15 years straight.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I don't even make $2,000 a week.
I don't even want to do those figures. It's remarkable. So,
and dare I ask how you funded that?
Just completely with crime and selling drugs, kicking people's doors in, sticking guns in people's faces, extorting people, doing all sorts of really horrible stuff, whatever it took,
One thing that really surprises me about your story, Matty, is that ice is such an awful drug that even the bikers don't want you to take it.
Absolutely.
And you were booted from your club when they discovered you were using it.
15 years of ice abuse later, and by this stage I was completely out of control. I was a concoction of lack of sleep, lack of nutrition, steroids and ice. I'd be awake for weeks at a time, and I was out of control. And, contrary to people's understanding of this, every outlaw motorcycle club in Australia has banned that drug to be taken by their members. Every single club in Australia.
Happy for you to sell it and make a killing in more ways than one.
I can't comment on that. I can comment that I will definitely say that I was selling it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily with the club's knowledge.
Wow.
Massive.
So I mean, there you are. So I guess looking for acceptance, looking for somewhere to belong, and if you can't get accepted by an outlaw motorcycle club, that's sort of, pretty sort of bottom of the barrel stuff, isn't it?
Mate, I was out of control, completely out of control, and I went, look, I understand an example needed to be made I understand that, and I was that example. But yeah, that doesn't take away the fact that it was extremely painful, physically, emotionally, mentally. You know, I went from being, this egotistical maniac that was, known everywhere, to being then just a drug addict in the middle of nowhere, on the other side of the country, and I was in hell. I decided it's time to go. I'd pushed everyone out of my life. There was no one left. Yeah. And I decided it was time to kill myself.
Wow.
Yeah, so I actually had a gun that I'd stolen from a drug dealer's house, and I put the gun to my head, I clocked it back, and I stuck it to my head. And unknowingly to me then, what I do know now, obviously, is I was literally standing at the doors of hell for eternity. I was there. The doors were opening. Satan was sitting there going, "You little ripper, come down here," and God intervened.
How?
Mate, what happened, I actually saw, just as I was about to pull the trigger, I actually saw a vision, an image of my mother and my little brother. And I hadn't thought about them, hadn't even thought about them for years and years and years, just in my addiction and my own selfishness and all that stuff. And suddenly I saw their faces and they just were so devastated. I can't explain it. I dropped the gun. And
wow, just because of the thought that maybe someone somewhere cares for you.
Yeah, and I wasn't speaking to them at all at the time. I'd pushed them all away, and they were fed up. It was like, we don't answer the phone. So,
but it was that close.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's fast forward a little bit. Yeah. You managed to get into Salvation Army rehab.
Yeah, Duralong Transformation Centre.
Yep, over here on the East Coast.
Yes, on the central coast of Australia. Just an amazing transformation centre. And I knew when I got there, this is where I get well. But I came in there, and make no mistake, I was still a very angry, very violent, angry, and broken-hearted. All this stuff. I was a bad guy, and there was a profound moment that would really change that for me. I had not yet found Jesus, and I didn't know what Jesus looked like. And I was on the phone one day to my ex-partner, and we were in, at the time, a very toxic relationship, and there was a lot of I hate you too, yeah, and blah, blah, you, and blah. So it was back and forth, and I mean, I'm screaming, I'm really getting into her.
Yeah, really worked up, yeah.
And vice versa. And I don't get angry these days, but when I used to be angry, it doesn't look pretty. And this sweet lady, her name's Rachel McDonald's, walked around the corner, and she said, "Matthew, it's time for chapel, can you come?" And I just turned around and went, rack off, but with much more colourful language and expression. And she just went, okay, and walked back into the chapel. And one of the guys come up to me straight after and said, "Matty, do you realise who that is?" And I said, "Who?" He goes, "That's the boss's wife." And I just went, oh no.
Here we go.
I'm sitting at this table, got my head in my lap, and
just thinking, now I have to pack my bags. It's all
I'm
over.
out of here. I've just written myself off, and I'm thinking about how I nearly killed myself a couple of months ago. I'm thinking about the cockroaches in the sink. I'm thinking about the environment I was living in, and the feeling like I was being permanently tortured, like my soul had been torn out, and just hell. And I'm going back to that. I'm thinking I'm dead, Yeah. What she did next changed my life. She walks out, comes up to me and goes, "Matthew, can you stand up, please?" I went, "Sure, here we go. Pack your bags. The bus is waiting for you. I know how this works." And she looks at me and she goes, "Mate, can I give you a hug?" And I just went, "What? What do you mean?" I looked behind me to make sure there's no other Matthews. And I said, "What do you mean? Why do you want to hug me for?" And she goes, "Because I love you, mate." And she said it with such conviction. I just knew she was telling the truth. And this wet stuff started to come out of my eye, dribble down my cheek. I wasn't familiar with this stuff. It wasn't like that. Yeah. And I just leant in real awkwardly and didn't know what a hug looked like. I really didn't know. Yeah. And she just grabbed me and she just pulled me close, and she put her hands on my head and she'd start to pray for me. No one had ever prayed for me before. Didn't know what that looked like either. And, it's very weird at the time, but it's changed my life. But what she did in that moment is very profound, because up until that moment, I was a 33-year-old man, and the rest of the world had said, "See this guy here? He's the bad guy. He's too hard. He's unfixable. Work on the next guy."
Certainly unlovable.
Unlovable, absolutely. Yeah, and her response to that was, no, that's not what my God says. Absolutely not. My God says to love this guy and love him well.
And I guess that's what we call grace, isn't it?
Amen.
It's you didn't deserve it.
Amen. You didn't deserve it at all.
What you had coming was something completely different.
So true. Yeah. She showed me what grace looked like. She showed me what Jesus looked like.
Yeah.
She gave him a face for me. You know, she really illustrated the love of God, and it just baffled me. I was like, wow, this is weird, but it's real. And what she did in that moment is she broke down a 33-year brick wall with bringing forth steel. She just busted it down like, she may as well have flicked it over in the name of Jesus.
It's a pretty intensive program, the Salvation Army. What, 10 months or something? Or
I did it for 11 months. 11? An amazing, life-changing program.
So how long have you been clean now?
Whew, that's probably a couple of years now, just under a couple of years. And I just can't tell you how much since receiving Jesus into my life, my life's exploded, man. Yeah. I mean, I'm doing things to this day, I am not capable of.
Yeah. So you're pretty much on the speaking circuit these days, out there doing motivational speaking and telling a story. And what sort of responses are you getting?
Mate, very well received. It's just mind-blowing. I remember being at the end of the program and thinking, what am I going to do now? And, where I am today, it's all because this is nothing. None of this has anything to do with my abilities. This is all because I'm receiving Jesus into my life, and he is doing the work. All I have to do is keep listening to his voice and lean into what he's calling me to do. And I put it out there that's the same for everyone. If you we've all got, God has a will for all of us, an amazing purpose and will for all of us. And the more we lean into that and walk into what he's asking us to do, the clearer you will hear his voice. I guarantee it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
So if people want to sort of learn a bit more about your ministry or what you're doing or get in contact with you, what's the best way?
Absolutely, mate. Go to the website, which is gunstogod.com, or otherwise my Facebook business site, Matty K.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There's a couple of options for you.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you coming in here to share your story. And
very welcome,
it's
Ken.
incredible to see a life, transform the way God's transformed yours.
God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
Hey, we'll see you straight after the break.
Signs of the Times, a magazine for a world on the brink. And this month in Signs, who were the wise men who travelled miles to celebrate the Saviour's birth? What does Jesus' birth really mean for your life? We examine Jesus' bloodline and his time on earth, how you can enjoy the season's treats without feeling the guilt. All in this month's Signs of the Times. Subscribe to Signs this Christmas and change your life.
Hello, welcome back. Well, as usual, Kent, it's been an informative and inspirational show.
Well, that's just what we do here, Sibel. Well, I have certainly been inspired, especially by that interview with Matthew Craddock. Boy, what a story.
Yeah. Now, if you'd like to watch that interview again, or any of today's segments for that matter, all the InFocus videos are available to view and share at our website, record.net.au.
Lots of great content for you to explore. Hey, thanks for your company this week. Stay safe, stay positive, stay close to God. We'll see you next time on Record in Focus.
All the best.